This one's not going to run as smoothly as last time because my original series in Outlook got cancelled because I only set a limit to expire last week. So everyone has different details, but eventually people will join the screen. So far, it's only me on the call anyway, so it should be.
Maybe they joined all last time, so.
Oh, now they've got a few people. Hey guys.
That was a good response.
No, no great response. I'm on mute. Am I? Let me get rid of that. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. Cool. Just give me a few minutes. A few people will be joining from different methods, so we can get started. I need to share my screen on the TV, but it's giving me a bit of a technical issue. So apologies.
Do you want me to? I have one.
Oh, you got one. Okay. Cool.
I don't know if it's going to work. Maybe you should.
Cool. Thank you. So can you guys see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay, great. So before I start, just gonna give you a rundown of what we will be covering today. A few more people will be joining, but as a summary, today will be for new starters or new users of the platform. If you've already used the platform and gone through one of my training sessions or gone through any material that you will be probably familiar with, feel free to forward it to the correct people. If not, feel free to leave. If you don't mind starting again from the beginning, feel free to stay because this will be a session dedicated towards new users of the platform. I'll give it 2 more minutes and then we'll begin.
Mr. Right.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. It's Vivek joining.
Hi, Vivek. Yeah, as you guys can probably see, my resolution's jumping up and down. Apologies for that. Just give us a few minutes. Shouldn't want to use that.
It's because before it was connected to this one, but this one it was not plugged in. Do you need to use this?
Nah, I don't use it. Okay, what I'll do is...
You want to try it back with this one?
Is that disconnected from... Okay, yeah, I'll choose this.
Maybe you want to try it directly from here?
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, actually, no, that's... Oh, that could work. Because we use that for our monitors.
Is this left or right?
This is left.
Should
Yeah,
be
sure.
out automatically.
So if you, yeah, great. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Let me just quickly change the resolution. Give me a minute, then we'll start. Display. Okay, slightly better. Let me make it a bit more larger. Okay, so we'll begin. Apologies for that. So yeah, thank you for joining the session. As a summary, I'll go over what we're going to cover again for the new joiners to the call. So basically, this will be for new starters of the platform. If you are new to Journey Creator and you've been hearing all about it, this session will be for you. If you are already experienced, feel free to stay, but also feel free to leave or forward it to the correct people that may benefit from this. But yeah, to begin, what we will be doing is basically following along of what I do on the screen. Feel free to ask any questions on the way. Currently, I mean, there isn't a environment that you guys can play along at the same time with, but there will be opportunities for me to test any questions that you throw against me. So yeah, to begin, basically, so this is called Journey Creator, and this is the main, I can say probably the main area of DXP. Previously, this was called Beekeeper, as you can see in the URL. Today will just be a summary or the beginning section will be a summary of what you're seeing at the moment. So this is actually not a good place to start. Let me log out so I can show you from the beginning. Okay, so whenever you visit Journey Creator, and I will show you diagrams for it to make more sense, but this is the first thing that you'll see. You've got a logo, which is of course synchronous. Then you have an option to enter a username and password. Usually for our test environments, you can probably guess it. The first user login will be test, and the password will be test2, as in the same characters. But yeah, I mean, once you log in or once you get access to credentials, you'll be on Journey Creator. And the first thing that you'll see, which you just saw briefly before, was App Builder. And this is basically the first area that you will use to build your applications. So before I do anything, I will describe exactly what you're seeing on the screen. I'll start from top to bottom. So on the top, what we have here is our three main areas. We've got App Builder. So as you probably guessed, App Builder is where you build your application. You've got Data Editor, where we add data to the model of your application. And then the most important, I could say, will be Integrate. So this is where we basically integrate with third-party services or even first-party services, depending on your needs, because it is quite flexible. On the far right, we have an icon, as in a screwdriver, and a spanner icon, which is basically the settings area. And then next to that, we've got the log out button. So to log out, you just click the icon, and then you're back to where we started. Cool, so that's the top navigation bar. Below it, you do have your main areas of the area you're currently on. So for example, for Ad Builder, I will get into detail on this, but we have three different tabs. We've got Design. Again, you can probably guess that one. This is where we design our application using the tools available for us. We've got Preview, which I'll get into later on. And we've also got Version as well, which I'll get into later on. On the left-hand side, we have our directory. On the top, we have our, so this area here will be our projects. So let me stop here. So what you see here is a carousel of different projects that have been created in Journey Creator. So what is a project? A project is basically the top level view of your application. And this is where we organize our applications, actually. So rather than being assigned to an application, the project will be above an application. You can see the project as a global folder. To make more sense, I'm actually going to show you a diagram, which I've put together for you. Let me get rid of that. So yeah, in Journey Creator, we start by building a project. Then, for those who have been hearing about applications itself, you've got features, business features, and then you've got steps. And inside the steps is where we actually configure our information. So to begin, I'm going to load up the PowerPoint to make it a lot easier. All right, so yeah, here's a diagram, very simple. So you've got your project. Inside your project, you've got your application, and this is the main part. We break down our application into different features because no application uses, well, in the real world, I mean, you've got different types of features. You've got checkout, you've got a basket, you've got a cart, all for a retail experience. So this is where we break that down. To make it a bit more precise, inside our features, we can add steps. And steps are basically building blocks of our application. And on each step is where we configure our information. So for example, if I was to create a checkout experience for a customer, I'll allow the user to enter their name and last name and their phone number in a step. And then, yeah, that will all be tied towards an application. But yeah, that's just a summary of how an application will look in Journey Creator.
Hey,
So
Louis.
let me switch back to the project or the view that you're currently on. So under our carousel, as in our projects carousel, we have our applications, and we've got a list of applications here. We've got at least 7 there. To create the application, all we need to do is go down to the blue button, and then we can call this one New Starters. We give it a name and then we save, and as you probably guessed, it will appear on the left-hand side. Now, we basically began building an application, but as you can see, it's pretty empty. So what we need to do next, based on our diagram, is build our features. Now, usually when I go through these sessions, I use a very simple example, which is the weather. But I mean, before I do that, actually, I'll show you how to add a new feature. So throughout building your application, you'll see these 3 dots, and if you're used to UI design or anything in general nowadays, you'll assume that once you click on these 3 dots, you'll have options available. So I'm going to click on these, and then we have an option to add a feature. We have an option to edit our application name, and we also have an option to delete. So I'm going to create a new feature, and I'll call this feature
Hey, Louis.
let's call this feature today. Cool. So I'll create a new feature today. I'm going to create another feature called tomorrow, so that we have a we have an option to build a real application. I mean, usually no application will have 1 feature. So I mean, we normally create 2 to show you how to build an application. But for now, I'm going to use today. Let me quickly check the chat, see what's going on. Audio. Okay. I can't hear actually. Let me change. Apologies for that, Nicole. Let me change the audio. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We can hear. I wasn't the one who had a question, but someone was trying to ask.
I was. Hey, Louis.
Oh, yeah,
Can you hear me?
If you, as in, yeah. So press that. Yeah, no, it's a weird remote. Hello? Nope. Okay. Okay. Hello?
We're here.
All right, apologies for the audio. Can you guys confirm that you can hear me in the chat? Or actually, to move forward for now, could you, while I solve this issue, could you post your questions in the chat and I'll respond through the audio? Yeah, technical issues. I don't know why. I'm connected to a TV, but it's not relaying my feedback. But anyway, to continue on that one, on the left-hand side, what we have here is our new application called New Starters, and we have two features called Today and Tomorrow. So yeah, just to recap, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat and I will respond to them. It's a bit awkward, I know, without hearing you guys' voice, but yeah, sorry, apologies for that. All right, so we have today, and inside today, what do we have? We have we have today's dates. We've got today's name, as in today is Thursday. We have a whole different bunch of properties related towards today. So to begin, what if I wanted to create a property called name? And what I will do is I'll visit data editor. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how a feature looks like. So let me quickly recap. It'll be a lot easier if I do this. I'm going to log out and then log in. So yeah, application feature today. Now, the first one that you will see in our feature is nothing because it is pretty much empty. So what we need to do next, based on our diagram here, is create a step. So we need to basically break down the feature into different blocks that we can enter information in. And we'll do this by clicking on the same three dots. We have a new option here called template, and we still have the same option to give it a name. So for example, I would do weather, and then we have an option to choose between templates. Now in Journey Creator, we've got something called Lumen, and Lumen is basically a UI toolkit that you can use to view applications on a client. Basically, Lumen will be integrated with Journey Creator, so your configuration on here will be displayed on a front-end application. For now, I'm going to choose a simple form, and the reason why we have CTA, which is click to action, and the reason why we have simple form is because these are out-of-the-box templates. Of course, with clients, it can range from baskets to carts, checkout, address details. Good thing about Lumen is that you can create your own templates, and in Journey Creator we can do that too. We can configure and create our own templates inside. Once you do that, whenever you create a new step or an existing step, we can assign that new template to the step. But for now, I'm going to choose simple form to make it a lot easier, and I'll hit save. Cool. All right, so the first thing that you'll see when you have a new step is an accordion. We've got three different areas here. We've got data profile, we've got integration of rules, and we've got UX configuration. Again, it's blank because we haven't got any data, but from here we can see the the step name. On the right hand side, we have an option to edit, but we can still see the step template that we selected, which is pretty good. Okay, so you're probably thinking, all right, so we've got the weather step. How do we actually enter anything? I mean, what is the process of entering anything? How does the user enter anything on the front end? How does it actually work? So, I mean, we have a blank data profile. So the next bit that we do need to do is visit data editor. So we'll resume on that build-up, I'll switch to the data editor tab so you can have a new look on another area of Journey Creator. Again, we have different tabs here. The first one, as in the predefined one, will be ADM, which is the most important one. ADM basically stands for Application Data Model. So with our applications, you need to imagine it as a very large JSON model. Because at the end of the day, when we add information to this model can be exported. It could be used in a completely different way. So we need some sort of a reference. So this is where we actually reference our properties. This is where we reference our arrays, our objects, and more. Now, as a scenario, let's say if we wanted to add weather information for today, one thing we can do, of course, is add our location. Everyone's in different locations here. So to do that, you can probably assume I'm going to click on New Property. So in order for you to add a new property, and hopefully you guys understand property object array, they work very similarly to their programmatic terms. So a property will be a property on an object, and an array will be an array to hold or associate data. Objects can be seen as a folder to organize data, but they all work similarly to how it works in JavaScript, for example. On the right-hand side, if our model does get a bit large, we can search, but for now, we don't need to do that. I would say ignore show linked and ignore import for now. But to begin, I'm going to create a new property called my location. Cool. So, yeah, more information here. So we have a name, of course, but now we have an option to give it a description. So usually, whenever you add a property, most people, currently the users of the platform will never add a description. One reason why you would add a description is if another user was to use your application to give them information on this property, but it is optional, so we can skip the description. But the most important thing for your property, of course, will be the type. And in Journey Creator, currently we have 7 different types. So the top 4, of course, you guys must know what a Boolean, a string, and a number, and an integer is. If you don't know, the icons will help you, depending on the different data type. As you probably guessed, my location will be a string because we are using alpha numerical characters. So we'll leave it as string as default. Strings will be probably the most popular type. Under that, we've got base64, so we can use that for base64 images or signature capture. For example, we've got text and image, which are the so text and image are types that can be used with a CMS. I think in Journey Creator, we have the option to connect to different CMSs. For example, we've got .cms. We've also got another CMS called Contentful. So you can actually upload images or the URL and then have them displayed in your journey by using by using the image type, but text can be a .text format, and there are different ways of using that. So we have 4 different tabs. I'll leave it on the first one, which is properties for now, to avoid confusion, and then I'll hit save. Cool. So now that we have some sort of data, you could probably guess that we do need to add it back on our step. So from the top, we've got new starters, which is our application. We've got today, which is our feature. We've got weather, which is our step. Now to add data from data editor to our step in App Builder, we need to edit. And as you can see, we have a reference to our ADM. Luckily, our model isn't pretty large, so we don't need to search it, but we do have that option too. So all we need to do is drag and drop from the right-hand side to the left. And then what you see here is a success toast, confirming that you've added it to the resource. Another name for a resource is a step. So you see the term resource, it's basically a step. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. We've got data, and then we can now save. We hit save. Now, we're not done because we've basically, it depends how you see it. So we have data, we've got a step, we've got a feature. do we have a working application? I don't know. Let's see. So in order for us to see any changes in Journey Creator, what we need to do is whenever we make a change is select preview. Preview basically gives you a preview of our application in the back end. As of recent, for those that are experienced on the platform, we've integrated Lumen, which is basically the front-end client. So you will have a more enhanced preview, which will show images and more rich media. Usually, it doesn't take this long, so I'm gonna have to switch back to the other tab. Let me switch back to preview. But yeah, okay. So whenever you hit preview, you'll see your changes. Now, the first thing that you will see is your features. So you need to imagine your application as a top level view, but inside your application, the first thing you'll see is all of your features. Because this is a preview, this will not be in order. You need to actually order this using another tool, which I'll get into. But we can see what we've created earlier. We've got today as a feature, and we've got tomorrow as a business feature. Inside our today feature, we have a step called weather. So I'm going to click on today, but nothing happens. And what happens is that we get a button stating that we need to return back to features. But on the left-hand side, we have a step called weather. So why can't we see the weather step, even though we've selected today? I mean, tomorrow is going to be pretty much empty because we haven't added any information in there. So if I click on today, what should happen is that we should see a step called weather, but we cannot see it. So the reason for this is because I need to bring you into a new area called links. And links is basically the way applications will be validated against. To make it easy for you, we mainly use two links, and you can see them now. We've got create link, which is, well, I'll get back into that. So we've got create, we've got edit, and we've got item. So ignore item for now. I don't know what it is. It may be removed. But the most important thing that we will be focusing on now is create and edit. So to recap, I went to preview. And then what should happen is that we should see, I mean, if we could see today, we should see weather, but we couldn't. And this is because our weather step has no links. So we do need links available on our step for us to see any information. Now, let me switch to the PowerPoint. Okay, so adding our first create link. So create is basically what it is. It allows you to create data in our journey. So basically create links or a create option is a resource in a data model. Create allows you to create a resource in the data model. Those who are familiar with RESTful terms, create means post and edit means put. So create will allow you to post data and edit will allow you to put data. For now, I mean, the reason why we couldn't see weather as in our step is because we haven't got a create link. So the user has no option to post any data. So what I need to do now is switch back to our application, and then literally in order for you to add a create link, all you need to do is click on the plus button, you hit save, and then now let's preview. So we have our features, and yet again, when you preview, you'll see the top level view of your application. Even though there isn't nothing in tomorrow, we do have the feature itself. This is why it's visible, but I'm going to click on today, and we've got weather. But now, when I click on weather, you can see our property, which we added from data editor. So now that we have it available, I'm going to enter my location. And I'll choose London. Submit. Again, I mean, eventually with clients, there may be validation requirements. We can add a minimum or maximum character length. We can add regex towards this. But for now, I'll leave it as it is. We hit submit. And then, yeah, we're pretty much done. Now, the reason why we cannot see anything else is because we are done, meaning that we have no create links available, and then that confirms that our application is done. So if you had 10 steps with 10 create links and you've visited only 9 of those 10, your application is not done, as in not finished, until you've visited that 10th link. To make more sense, we'll build a much larger application later on. But for now, that's pretty much the beginning. So we've literally created a step. But I mean, it's pretty basic. We need to connect it to another step to actually build a real application. But yeah, that's basically a create link. What if I wanted to add a edit link? As in, what if I wanted to edit London when I submitted it? What we need to do now is switch back to the step. We click on edit, and then we go to integration of rows. And again, ignore item, but I'm going to select edit. So we have a create link and we've got an edit link. We hit save, and then now I'm going to hit preview again to see our changes. We go to today, we go to weather, we've got my location, London, submit. Great. Now, ignore the colors here, but as you can see, we're not done. The reason why is because we have an edit link, so it's giving us an option for the user to edit information. So, because we have the information already there, as in it's been created already, it's already pre-populated London for us, which is pretty good. I'm going to introduce you to another area in preview called state, where we can see our current journey information. This, of course, is JSON, but if you look towards the bottom area, we can see my location in London. Now, pay attention carefully as I change London to New Jersey, for example. And then I'm going to hit submit. As you can see, London has now changed. So that's basically our execution of our edit link. So the user has now created and the user has now edited. I'm going to do it again because it is available. We'll do Tokyo. Submit. Cool. Now, as you've noticed, I'm going to do it one more time. This edit link will not disappear. And this confirms that we haven't finished our application. So basically, when all of the links have been visited, our journey is done. But we aren't done now because we still have the edit link available. So imagine if I was to give a user an option to change their password. How many times can I give the user the option to, or when would the user have the options to stop? The questions may arise on how to stop an edit link. Basically, whenever you select an edit link or a create link on your application, so what we have here is our step. We've basically given the user an option to create. So let's say the user was to enter London and then submit. That means the user has finished with their create link. Now, you've given the option for the user to edit, but the user hasn't finished because you haven't given the user an option to stop editing. There's no option here for you to do that, so that edit link will forever be available. In other words, we need to stop the edit link because, there isn't no option to do that by default. Luckily, we have something called preconditions. So preconditions are basically rules, as in rules code that we use to validate if the user can see this link or not. If the validation is true, then the link will be available. Again, this may be a bit confusing, maybe a lot to take in, so I need to go through this a bit more slowly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select edit. And as you can see here, we have a checkbox called precondition. It is blank, meaning that we have no precondition, so we need to give it a precondition. When we click on that, we've got an option to add a new expression. Okay, so to remember this, I'm going to type in this. So if the rule is true, then this link is available. So no matter what you put in your code here, and this is something called Blockly. Blockly is basically a tool by Google. The reason why it is integrated into Journey Creator is because it allows a lot more flexibility. And I mean, there could be 100 different reasons why you'll create a rule, but on the left-hand side, we have different blocks that we can use to create logic. So to make this a bit more relevant towards our example, I'm going to say if the user is not in London, then this link is available. So in other words, if the user enters anything apart from London, then they will forever be stuck on that edit link. So yeah, let's do that now. So Blockly is basically a puzzle builder. You've got different block groups that you can use, especially if you're not familiar with coding or programming in general. It's designed to be very easy for a non-technical user to use to build applications, which is great with GenCreator. So for those that are technical, you can probably guess what I need to do next. So what I need to do is if the user is not in London, then, yeah, ignore the error message, but we'll use that as a basis. So we need to visit the logic block, which is here. We've got different blocks that we can use. We can use an operator block. We can use an and or block. We can use a not block or a Boolean block. But I choose the top one. And then what we have here is a puzzle, pretty much. Now, there are two blocks that are empty. So we need to fill those two blocks. If we are validating against a string, then we need to use a text block. And then the first one is a string block. So we can say if blah, 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 blah is not equal. So we switch it from equal to not equal. To a new block group called variables. So variables is the way that you will use to integrate with your ADM, as in your application data model. So the only way to reference your application data model here is to use variables. So I'm going to select that now. And then again, we'll choose the top one because it is the most popular one. We have a property block. And then when I click on this property block, we have a pop-up giving us a reference to our ADM. Because we only have one property here, I want to choose that one. And we're going to say if, okay, let's do that other way around actually. If my location is not equal to London, then this link is available. So if I switch back, so edit allows a user to edit a resource in the data model. Okay, let me not continue. Let me just preview for now. So we hit OK to save, but we can't because we've got an error message. Let me get rid of that. We click OK, hit save, get rid of that, get rid of that. Oops. By the way, those toast messages will expire in a couple of seconds. But yeah, let me preview again so we can see our changes. We hit today because we've edited today. We've got weather. We've got my location. I'm going to choose a different location apart from London. I'll choose Sophia because we have a team in Sophia. Hit submit. Great. Now our edit link is available, confirming that it is true, meaning that it's been validated against our rule. And just to recap, if it is true, then the link will be available, meaning that if we don't match London based on our rule, then the user will have an option to edit so they can get it correctly. I'm going to do London with a lowercase l, then hit submit. Still there because, I mean, we haven't matched our rule. I'm going to do London with a capital and not be careful, but watch carefully. And then when I hit submit, as you can see, we don't have the option anymore, as in the link isn't available. It's telling us to go back to our features because we are done. Okay, I hope I can fix this audio for any questions. But if you do have any questions, please message them in the chat. Normally, this isn't an issue, so apologies.
Try to select USB.
USB.
The dots, so maybe.
It's for the call. USB.
Yeah, on the
Audio.
The audio, yeah.
Disconnected.
Okay, one more test. Can you guys hear me? No?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we've got quite a few questions here actually. Deval, I apologize. I know you've been through this before. Nicole, okay, so you guys can hear me? All right, so I'll start with Deval's question. So from the PowerPoint page you showed with the hierarchy, when would you have more than one application under a project? Is there a right or wrong way? Should it be 1-to-1 ratio? So good question, Deval. I'm going to switch back to the, what do you call it? The diagram. So yeah, what we have here is, I mean, a 1-to-1 ratio project to application. I mean, there is no limit towards having multiple applications in one project. A good example of having multiple applications in one project will be, well, no good example. Okay, so imagine we have a client called BT, so British Telecom. They will have different subsidiaries. They will have EE, they will have PlusNet, they will have, what's the other one under BT? I know they've got another company. But yeah, so they've got EE and PlusNet, for example. So yeah, imagine if we wanted to group a similar brand. So we can use branding, for example. We've got EE as a brand, sorry, BT as a brand, but they also have companies under them, under their umbrella. A good example of using multiple projects will be EE as a project and PlusNet as a project. I mean, there isn't no bad way or good way about it. It's more about relating it towards the project itself. If you had a project called NFL, I mean, you can have different teams in there. NBA, you can have Golden State Warriors, OKC, all of that. That can be the way that you use multiple different applications inside a project. But yeah, there isn't no wrong way about doing that. So feel free to add as much applications under a project as you like. Okay. So Nicole, can you explain what simple form means? Is it a predefined form? Okay, another good question. So simple form, let me show you the template. All right, so what we have here is two templates which are out of the box. And I did rush a bit. So, I mean, you've seen app builder now, and you've also seen data editor, but we also have access to templates. Some templates will be used with Lumen. So we have the ADM, which is shown by default. We also have something called ARD, translations, rules, but we have templates as well. Okay, so we've got CTA and simple form. What is simple form? I'll show you an example. So let's see if I've got this running. Great. Okay. So if I click on simple form, for those that are pretty much technical, we have a JSON schema. Simple form allows the user to enter 3 different properties here. We've got a subtitle, submit label, and title. So whenever a client wants to add new templates, they will upload this schema, and then Journey Creator will use the schema to generate a form, not predefined, but you need to add information, a form that we assign to a step that we can use to configure information. So since we gave weather, our weather step is simple form, as you can see here. To configure, what we need to do is visit a new area called US configuration. And I may be jumping a bit ahead, but I will get back into this. But yeah, so because we have a template called simple form, we have 3 different properties here. We can configure these in here. So we've got weather step. So this doesn't really make sense until I'll show you on the front end, but we can actually, give me 1 minute. Let me load that for you. Where did it go? All right, here we go. No. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now is load a Lumen client. I've been working on a project called House Kitchen, which will showcase the different features of Lumen. Lumen, again, will be part of DXP, but separate towards Journey Creator. So I'm actually going to run it now, so I can show you how a simple form looks like. Just give it a few seconds. I'm a bit annoyed about the audio issue here. Usually I have at least 20 people shouting questions at me. But yeah. Okay, so let me, yeah, so you can, yeah.
No, I mean connect to your call.
Oh, to my call. Actually, then that'll be a good option. Yeah, for audio. That's all right. So yeah, so simple form is basically that. So I'm going to show you a predefined, sorry, that's the wrong term. I'm going to show you an existing application that we configured called House Kitchen. And then inside this step, we have two fields. We've got postcode, we've got number, and we also have a submit button. In our simple form, we can also configure the title. We can also configure the subtitle, as you've seen here. So to make this a bit more easier, I'm going to switch to the application. Hopefully I can remember that I can do that on it. Okay. So as you can see, actually, this is a very large application. This is a combination between three different proof of concepts, one for BT, one for Dixon's car phone, and one for AT&T. But of course, I mean, the application can be used for different purposes. Part of that was to showcase the functionality of Lumen. So I need to basically find where we are. All right, so check availability. So we are basically here. So what I will normally do is find the feature in our directory. And then we have postcode eligibility, which is the first step. So now you guys can see our two properties. So we've got postcode, we've got number. On here, we've got postcode, we've got number. But when I want to configure, I need to go and edit and then UX configuration. As you can see, 1, 2, and 3 are matching towards 1, 2, and 3. So in our simple form, we can, it's not predefined, but we do have properties that are available for us to configure. So we've got 1, which is the title, which we've got here. Just to prove that I'm not cheating, I'm going to change it quickly to check by itself. And we should see the change if I hit preview. I'm going to hit save. Apologies, guys. I know you need to change it back. Preview. All right, so yeah, preview can sometimes, it's a lot quicker than it was a couple months ago, but it can take a while if the application is pretty large. But I mean, we are back at a familiar spot. We've got all of our features here. We've got quite a lot. To see the difference, I'm going to refresh the browser. And then click on our broadband journey, which is where the step is located. But no, yeah. So the reason why we cannot see any change, again, I am jumping ahead, but we need to deploy it to a certain environment. Eventually, we're going to get to the topic of App Engine, but ignore what I'm doing now. I'm actually going to deploy it to an environment, which is EE1, right? So basically, I've connected my front end to this environment. Client-wise, I mean, a client can have multiple different environments. You can have QA environments, you can have testing environments, you can have UAT environments. A good tool in Journey Creator is a deploy tool, so we can choose which environment we want to deploy our application to. EE1 is just a testing environment. So now that I've deployed it, and by the way, preview and deploy work very similarly. But now I've deployed it, I'm going to have to refresh to see the changes. Program journey. Cool. Now, no change, which is good, so I can show you why. The reason why we cannot see a change is because I may not be pointing to the correct environment. So let's see. Yeah. All right. All right, so apologies for that. I'm going to have to log out and log into the right environment. So for those who are experienced, we have something called App Engine IDs, which you've probably seen just now. I had to change it based on 1002. I'm not going to get into anything like that because it can get a bit confusing, but let me try again. So we have our configuration, and then I'm going to hit preview. But yeah, of course, we need to select an application. So we choose House Kitchen. We hit preview. Yeah, give it a few seconds. Nope. Okay, it doesn't want to work. Maybe it does. This should work. Cool. All right, now, okay, so you guys probably saw it very briefly. If you have sharp eyes, what I've basically done is taken this App Engine URL. So we have this environment URL. To connect it to our front end, I had to copy it and paste it here. Ignore what's going on in here, but we're basically connecting the front end to the back end. Now that it is matching, we should see the change. So I'm going to refresh the page. Run journey. Cool. There you go. Now, normal availability, just check. But that just proves that we've made a change very easily in the back end. Again, showcasing the power of DXP. And then, the user didn't need to do anything. As long as it's pointing to the correct environment, then it should be fine. Cool. Now I've lost myself. Let me go back to the chat. See what's there. Okay. Nicole, again, a bit awkward. Could you confirm in the chat if you're happy with my answer to that question? But Devar has another question. So after adding your element property to the data profiling step, thank you, Nicole. Okay. What if you update the validation of that data field and some regex on it? Will I need to read the element to the data profile? Okay. All right, Devar's not here. So I'm actually going to leave that question or answer that question directly to him. But he's basically saying after adding something from your ADM to your profile, and I haven't done it yet, but you can add validation to your property in your ADM. One type of validation will be regex. If you're familiar with regex, it's basically a regular expression. So basically patterns that we used to use for validation. Will I need to reload the element on the data profile, or will the validation take effect? That question, I'm going to say all you need to do is hit preview on that one. So to avoid any confusion, any change that you do make in data editor or in app builder, if you want to see the change, just hit preview. Okay, I'm going to have to move back all the way to the beginning because I'm jumping ahead to day 3 here. But okay, let me switch back to the application. Cool. So hopefully you guys aren't lost. But yeah, feel free to ask more questions. So where were we? So we have our feature, we have our step, we've added a new property, we've given it a create an edit link. We figured out how edit links work slightly differently to create links. We're given a precondition. To show you again, I'm going to do it very quickly. Hit preview. Today, weather, my location is New Jersey. Cool. I mean, it's really not. So I'm in London. When I hit London, hit submit, cool, it disappears. As a summary, whenever your links are all finished, then your journey is done. If you've got no more create or edit links, then your journey is done. Okay. Now, moving on. Let me get rid of this, actually. Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, we have a very boring part of the application. I know you guys may be figuring out what the hell is going on, but the most interesting part of using Journey Creator is when we integrate with third-party APIs. And in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to use a API. I've gone through a few. There are multiple different examples that I can use, but the most popular one will be a API called, actually let me type it in. So here's a good example. Open Web App is a free API available to anyone. Very quick, very easy. I've created an account, so we have an API key, which I'll be using in the future. But basically, the goal from now on is to send our location. So we have a location property. When we enter our location, what we want back, or what we can get back, is information about the weather in our location. So in order for me to do that, I will need to explore more areas of App Builder and Integrate and Data Editor. But for now, I'm going to have to start again to make it a bit more easier. So, I mean, yeah, it's a bit sad I can't hear the audio because I'll ask questions from now on, but I'm going to have to start again. So I'm going to delete this application. Yeah. Oh, actually, no. I'll switch to the other project, which should be here. Which one is it?
You want me to unmute?
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah. Hey guys.
Just mute yourself there.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't seem to work here either.
Oh wow.
Can you try to talk? Yeah, here. Yeah. Oh.
Oh, okay.
So no, I think it's the problem is on their side.
Maybe you can use my microphone actually.
For audio. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean entirely.
I see yours.
Cool. Hey guys.
Hey, can you hear us?
I can finally hear you. Thank you.
1 hour later.
1 hour later. It's like I've been stuck in a cave. So yeah, going on from now on, it may be a bit more complex, so feel free to ask me any questions. Hopefully you guys aren't lost. Have you got any questions before I continue? No? Okay, cool. All right, so the aim of the game here is to get our get information from our location. And I'm going to show you an example. So they have different types of API information. So the first one that I normally use is called current weather data. And this is very simple. When I click on API documentation, I'll click on an example. What we have here is the response. So for those that are a bit more technical, yeah, we have a query. So we've got our URL, we've got our query, which is London, UK. And inside our query, we have more parameters. We've got app ID, which is our authentication token. But anyway, once we submit these, we're going to get a response. And this is exactly what we need to do in Journey Creator. Eventually, whenever you build out your own applications, this can get quite large and a bit more complex. So to make it a bit more easier, I'm going to do it bit by bit. All right, so we have one property, which of course isn't going to be enough. Oh, we actually don't have anything because we deleted it. So on purpose, I'm going to start again. I'll do this very quickly. I'll create a new application called I'll call it April weather. Spelling's horrible. Hit save. Great, we select our new application. Oh, that shouldn't. Okay. All right, so we have our application, we've got our feature, and then we'll call this one weather lookup. And then inside our feature, we'll have a step called get weather info. And then we'll give it a template because we can, and then we'll hit save. Cool. All right, so data editor, blank because I deleted it. I do apologize, but I'm gonna make this a bit more clearer now. It's actually better that I deleted it. So one thing I haven't done is creating a new object. So objects work as organization. So we have a request, we have a response. I'm going to send a request and I'm going to get a response back. So I can create a new object called request. Hit save. And in order for me to add properties to this object, I can have a drag and drop. So I'll show you now. I'll create a new property called my location. And it'll still be a string because we're using alphanumeric characters. We can have a drag and drop from my location into request. And then now it's nested. If we don't want that, if we made a mistake, we can also drag outside of it. We can literally select it and then drag it to the box above. That is a bug. I'm going to take a quick screenshot of that one. Yeah, because it shouldn't really show that. But very minor. Cool. I'm glad I'm finding bugs here. I'm going to refresh the page. Okay. By the way, if you do see a loading icon for ages, you can switch between different tabs and it shouldn't remove. But yeah, I've moved it outside of the object. I do want it inside the object, so I'm going to drag it back. All right, so since I have the object selected, every new property that I add will be nested inside this request object. To get rid of that, I'm going to have to hit escape on my keyboard. As in to deselect an object, you need to hit escape on your keyboard. Cool. All right, so I need two more properties here. The first one will be app ID, which is required because inside our query, we have an app ID parameter. And then the second one will be optional, and I'll call this one units. So we've got my location, property, units. Cool. Again, that'll be a string because for units, it will be either metric or imperial. We hit save, done. Great, so we have our request object. So you're probably guessing what do I do next? Luckily, it's very easy. We go back to App Builder. We have an empty data profile. We click on edit, we drag and drop. Where is it? I rushed it again. We do need a create link as well, but yeah, I'll switch it to the ADM library. We drag and drop. Now we have more properties, which is great. So we are pretty much done for now. By the way, we don't need to configure UX configuration because we aren't showing this on the front end for now. We can, but I'll do that later. Great, so we have our request object. But what do we get from the response? So let me have a look. So we have a whole bunch of information here. I'm only gonna select 4 different properties to save time. I'm gonna choose temperature, which is the most important. Pressure, I can choose humidity, as in chance of rain, and I can choose, okay, let's just do 3. Temperature, pressure, and humidity. All right, so I'm gonna have to create a new object in data editor. So we switch back, we go object, we go response. Cool, we select the object to save time, we add a new property. Now, as you've noticed, they are no longer strings, they are now numbers or integers. So for temperature, I'll just choose number because it still works. Pressure, humidity will all be numbers. So rather than choose a string, I'll choose a number. So we do temperature. Cool, property. As you can see, very easy to create a model. There'll be more features to copy and paste in objects and different arrays, but yeah, that's on the backlog. For now, I'm gonna have to do it one by one. Property, and then humidity. No, not humidity. Where is it? Pressure. Pressure. Okay. All right. That'll be a number. I mistakenly made humidity a string, so I edit and then change it back to number. Cool. Now, since we went on the topic of validation, I'm gonna have to show you an example. So for my location, what if I wanted to make it a minimum of 2 characters? The way that we do that is by editing the property, and then we have privacy, we've got tags, but of course we've got validation here. So we select validation, we do character length, which is the most popular one. For this example, we enter our minimum character length, and I'll leave the maximum. Okay, maybe a bug. All right, so minimum must be less or equal to max. All right, so we do have to define the max property. I'll just do 10 for now. I'll hit save. That could be a bit changed in my opinion, but anyway, cool. So we have validation on my location. So we have response, we've got request. Now I'm gonna have to do, all right, let me create another step called response to make it easier. Cool, so let me edit and then drag response to response. We hit save. Before we hit save, we do need a create link. Eventually, when you go through Journey Creator, you're probably going to be thinking, why do I need to manually select a create link if it is required? I don't know. Personally, I think whenever you create any step, a new create link should be defined by default because it is required. But yeah, I'm going to hit save. So cool. So we're almost done. Response, temperature. All right. So great. When I hit preview, have a look up, get with information. All right. So the most important part or the most fun part starts now. I'm going to show you a new area of Journey Creator called integrate. So this is where we actually integrate with a third-party API. We have 3 different options here: authentication, service provider, and services. They all have different purposes. In order for me to begin integration, basically I need to create something called a service provider. A service provider can be seen as a name to associate with services. So I'll call this one Open Weather, and then I'll hit save. Cool, edit. Sorry. So you can edit your name, you can add a description. After creating a provider, you give it a service. So we switch to services. Then we choose a provider. And then the only other option here is to add a service. So basically services, when I click on add service, you can choose the service type, as in SOAP or REST at the moment. Because we are using, a REST client, we're doing a GET request, basically, which is REST. Oops. The method, as in the protocol will be HTTP. No, based on the API, it will be HTTP. Ignore this bit, but yeah, it will be HTTP, and I'll explain why later. So yeah, we can choose between HTTP or HTTPS, which is pretty good. For now, I'll just choose HTTP. 1 and 2, ignore these 2 for now, they are configurable. And basic auth, we don't need any authentication, so we'll leave that empty. But I can't hit save because we haven't added a name. So I'll call this one get current weather. All right. Now the next thing we need to do is add something called an endpoint. So we'll switch to authentication, and then we need to add a new endpoint. Normally, I mean, we will literally, once we've added our service, the next thing will be an invocation. But for some reason, you can't save this until you've added an endpoint. So I'll get back to this. So we need to switch to another tab. Again, that can be changed. Probably will be very soon, but yeah. So the next step is to add an endpoint. All right, so we choose our service, open weather, and then we add new. Okay, so we can give it a name. We'll call this one current weather. It could be anything. The host will be everything in the URL apart from the query and the protocol. So basically, it will be, where is it?
What is the convention for endpoints?
What's the
Convention.
endpoints will be what the
Capital and camel case?
yeah, I do recommend that. Yeah, camel case will be good. But I'll just put anything there. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So endpoint will be our endpoint. So our host will be, of course, excluding everything apart from the. Sorry, our host will be everything apart from the query and the protocol, which would be basically this bit. Okay, where's it gone? Cool. So our host is api.openweathermap.org. Our port will be 80 because we're using HTTP, and our operation URL, which is where we direct to, will be where is it? Okay. Will be data.2.5/weather. Cool. Our query will be configured using something called data mapper, which I'll show you next. But for now, I'm just going to copy the URL. Do that. Cool. I'll add a / and then we hit save. All right, so we have our endpoint. Now we can configure our invocation. So from the beginning, you create your service provider, you create your service, you create your endpoint, and then now we need to invoke. So we need to choose if it's a GET request or a POST request or others. Cool. So we click on edit. No, add invocation. Because we are doing a GET request in a browser, we'll choose GET. And then we'll call this one, yeah, I'm not going to choose the same name. Copy that. No, we'll just do weather. All right, so it will be a GET request. JSON will be predefined. We can also choose between JSON and XML depending on SOAP or REST. But of course, that'll be predefined based on your service choice. Most important thing here will be your endpoint, and we've configured that already. So what should happen is that whenever we finish, we will, our journey will hit this part and then it will return the information. Cool. So next, we need to edit. No, we don't need to edit. Apologize. What we need to do is map data. So a good tool in Journey Creator is visual mapping, and I'll show you why. So what we have here is a response. If you are familiar with REST, you can have a response. Sorry, every request will have a response. But every request doesn't require a request body. Every request doesn't require a request params object. You have a choice. So the reason why we have response predefined is because we will always have a response. Which means that we can choose between what we are sending as a request. Because we are using query params, where is it? Should have moved it outside. Because we are using query params as in queue and app ID, what we need to do here to configure our query params will be to use, okay, I'm going all the way away, to use request params. And yeah, we have a title called optional mapping because they are optional. But we do need to send these, of course, to get a response. So we choose request params, add. Now we can edit. And then what we see here on the left-hand side is our input. So, I mean, this part really confuses some people. Import is basically our ADM, so what's coming from our application. Output is what gets sent to our mapping, which will be sent to our API. So what we have here on the right-hand side is our output, and we need to basically load a JSON object in order for us to map our data. This is a very important part of GenCreator because it saves a lot of time. It's very easy to map. We can also code this. So if you're familiar with a scripting tool called Groovy, you can also use that for more complex operations. But for anyone that isn't technical or wants to save time, you can use this tool here. So to begin, I need to load a JSON file. I've already created this for this demo, so I need to find it. We've got weather service, we've got our weather, yep, there you go. So we've got weather request params, import, great. So basically this may not work. Let me just change it back quickly. So what we need to have here is a JSON. Our request is defined by our input. So wherever we're sending to our API needs to match, eventually match the information in our ADM. To make more sense, let me quickly show you how this works. So we import, and then we have my location, app ID, and unit. So you can probably guess which I need to map to. My location will be mapped to Q, which is basically query. App ID will be mapped to app ID. Units will be mapped to units. Cool. And then that's pretty much done for the request. Of course, we get to the screen, no problem. And let me go back. So integrate, and then we have our service. If you already have a service predefined, we have to select the drop down, and then we have our invocation. To get to that screen, we need to click on map data once you selected the invocation. Cool. But yeah, so we've finished our request params, and the only thing left to receive a response. You guys can probably assume this is very quick. Imagine doing this from scratch, using your own tools. Take ages. But yeah, response is needed next. So for the response, it will be the complete opposite. The data coming back from the API will need to be mapped to our ADM, as in our model. So I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to load our JSON, which I've created already last year. And this response here is basically what you're seeing in, oh my God. Yeah, what you're seeing here. So this JSON response is uploaded. You can literally copy and paste this and save it as a JSON, upload it to GenCreator, and you can map the response from the API. So very easy, very powerful. We have a response object, and I'm going to choose. So we have temperature, oops, humidity, and pressure. I don't know why I use pressure, but anyway, I'll map it. We hit save. And then, yeah, we're almost done. We're not finished, but we're almost done. So we basically integrated to our API. And I mean, normally, if you're used to this, this shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, but that just shows you how powerful DXP will be in the future. I mean, currently, but yeah, it depends on the application, but you've got a lot of flexibility here. So the only final step I need to do is to assign, because of course we've got multiple different steps, is to assign the service to our step. And you may have seen it before. I want to show you. When we edit our step, we have integration rules, we have our links, and on the user, allowing the user to post, I'm going to execute the service. So when a user has posted their location, this service will be executed. So we need to add the service to the create link, because the create link allows users to post. So we click on create, and then we add service. So I'm going to give the service a name. We use Pascal casing here. You can use Cam casing. I'm going to call this one get weather service. Yeah. We've got 3 different options here. The most popular one will be the top one, API call, because we need to make an API call. I'll show you the other 2 later on. Service provider will be open weather, and then we literally just choose from what's available. Invocation will be weather, and then yeah, we're pretty much done. So what should happen when I hit preview? We should receive a response from, oh my God, let me move it back, from Open Weather Map very easily without any effort, pretty much. So let me hit preview. Okay, give it, shouldn't take this long actually. Yeah, cool. So we have our only feature, weather lookup. We have 2 steps. We can see both of the steps because we haven't created a linked journey, which I'll show you again later. But for now, we'll choose get weather information. So we give it our location, which is London, app ID, which is pre-configured. If that one doesn't work, I've got another one. And then we've got units, which will be either metric or imperial. Since we are in London, it will be metric. As far as I know, only 2 countries in the world will be using imperial, America and another country. So when I hit submit, okay, so hopefully we should receive a response. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So if I check the state, which is our current journey, the current temperature in London is degrees Celsius, so it'll be 8.34. We can also round it using something called business rules. We have a humidity of 66%, and the pressure, I don't know how to read that, but it's 995. So that's how easily we can configure our steps and our journey to connect to an API. All right, before I continue, any questions? No? Okay, great. So pretty much you've done the hardest part. I mean, technically speaking, because the rest will be mainly configuration. But what if I wanted to make it a bit more easier for the user to choose between, for example, to choose between the units. So if I restart the journey, okay. Get weather information, we have my location, which is London. I've literally typed in metric, but what if the user wanted to choose from a drop down rather than entering information? Thankfully, this will take us to another area in data editor called ARD. So we've got the ADM, which is the application data model. But next to that, we've got the ARD. So what is the ARD? ARD is application reference data model, you can call it. This is where we configure information that will be used quite frequently for our application. We can organize it as organize the data using folders. We can create constants. They work exactly the same way as how they work in programming. We can create new tables to host data. We can create new lists to choose from. So, I mean, if the user wants to choose from metric and imperial, I will need to create a new list. Okay, so I'll call this one units. And then it will be a string because, of course, we're using text. We add a new one, which is here. And then we call this one metric. Add value to add a new option, imperial. Cool, and that's pretty much done. But how do we actually use this on our step? If I hit preview now, it's not going to show that because we haven't assigned our list to our property. Yeah, we've still had the option for the user to enter information manually. So in order for us to assign a list to a property, we need to basically visit data editor. We need to find our property. units. We need to edit that property. And for some reason, inside validation, we have a list. Okay, I mean, yeah, it could be validation because it is enumeration, but yeah. So you click on validation, units. Once you selected it, we hit save. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. If I preview, we should see the drop down. Yeah, there you go. So now the user can choose between metric and imperial. And the way we've done that is by using the ARD, so the application reference data model. Now, before I continue, I want to show you another use of the ARD, and that'll be a constant. So constants, again, I mean, imagine entering a 32 digit or character app ID every single time you want to receive a response. It can get a bit tedious. So we can create a new constant to store that information. So we can call this one app ID, and it will be a string. Oh, I need to find it, apologies. So let me log in, by the wrong way. Yeah. Cool, so I'm gonna copy an app ID here. Oops. Now, yeah, imagine entering that again and again, it will be a bit tedious. So I'm gonna have to copy that and save it in the ARD to save time for the user. So we copy the value, we paste, and then we're done. So how do I actually get this app ID to show on our property called app ID? This is a bit different because there isn't an option inside the data editor to choose your constant. So the way that we could do this is by exploring probably the most powerful area of this platform, business rules. So I'm going to add a new service to our create link. So if you remember, we had three different options here. We have an API call, we've got external business rule, and we've got business rule. External business rules are imported from an external source. Business rules are, of course, the ones that we configure. But business rules allow the platform to be very, very powerful, and I'll show you why. We'll call this one app ID constant. Okay, for some reason they removed it, but now I can't add any spaces. Bless you. And then new rule. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different block groups that we can use to configure logic in our application. And then, yeah, each of these block groups will have multiple different blocks. So very flexible here, you can configure literally anything you want, which means that DXP could be targeted against pretty much any application. I mean, I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't use DXP for configuration of the journey, but yeah. So in order for us to use this constant, we're gonna have to visit the variable block group, and we have something called choose an ARD. So an ARD block. So very simple, makes sense. When I click on that, we have a choice between our list and our app ID. So we select app ID, and the goal here is to assign this app ID to a property. So to do that, we're going to use a new block called set state or set state block. So we drag that to the canvas, which is your puzzle, and then we drag app ID. So what we're saying here is that we want to set something to the value of app ID in our ADM. So very straightforward. So we have a property, and then we choose app ID. So we're basically setting the value of app ID inside our ARD to avoid confusion. ARD is application reference data to our app ID inside of our ADM. So yeah, when I hit save, the user should see the app ID pre-populated. Cool. So we'll have a look up. Get web information. No. Okay. But okay. So the reason why we do not see this is because if you remember, whenever we add a service, we add it to a create link, and the create link or the services on the create link will only be executed once the user has posted information. So in order for me to view or execute any of these services, I need to hit submit. Once we do that, then we will see the app ID in our state. So to show you, I'm going to hit preview, weather lookup, get weather information, we'll give location. I'm going to leave this blank, metric, submit. Okay, we have an error. Right, so error handling at the moment is a bit awkward. It will be improved on. 500 errors and internal server error, so something must have gone wrong. So let me quickly add the app ID, and then we get a response. Okay, so what happened? Let's see. So we had an app ID property, the rule. Now, yeah, you can probably guess what the issue here is. Luckily, we can configure the order of execution for our services. Whether service was called before we set the app ID, so that doesn't make sense. So we need to apply it first and then call the API. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to reorder our services. So when we hover over our service, we've got the three lines, and then we just drag to the bottom. Now it should work. And I shouldn't need to enter an app ID for a response because we have used the rule, as in the business rule, to set the constant. So I'll do it again. So London, app ID, blank, metric, submit. Cool, now we get a response. And to prove that, we've got our information here, and we've got our app ID here. Now, imagine the user seeing this blank, and I mean, it's pointless for the user to enter the app ID now. So how do we actually hide a field? I mean, the user will not need to enter the app ID anymore. One way we can do this is by editing the property in our step. So the way to see this is client side, and then data editor will be server side. So we use HTML properties here, so we can use the disabled property, which basically hides it from the user. And to do that, we select our property, and then we choose disabled. Hidden works in a different way, but disabled basically hides it from the user. We hit save, and now when I preview, we'll have a look up, now we don't see it because, the user doesn't need to enter information. If I hit submit, actually I'm going to choose a different location. I'm going to probably guess based on who's on the call. Okay, I'll do Bangalore. And I'll choose metric, and then we can view the state. We hit submit. We still get a response, so that confirms that everything is working. Right now, I'd rather be in Bangalore than London because it's 26 degrees. Well, no, that's wrong. Sorry, 30 degrees. Yeah, that's pretty good. Humidity is low, which is surprising. But yeah, still works, and we've basically made the journey a bit more easier using other areas of Journey Creator. Okay, cool. So this is all great. It's all happening in the back end. How do I see it on the front end? So luckily I did run it as in the server, as in the client server already. So when I hit, let's see, no. Okay. So I'm gonna have to now point the client to the Journey Creator. And in order for me to do that, I'm gonna have to copy my current App Engine ID. What is App Engine? App Engine is basically the runtime environment for Journey Creator. So every single time I add a new step or feature, it will basically validate against what we've added. Eventually, App Engine will generate a massive JSON file, and then that will be passed towards the client, and then we will see the client run our application on the front end. So that's basically a summary of App Engine. In App Engine, we've got different IDs. So if you are very sharp, you notice that I've used, actually to make that easier, I'm going to show you a new area called users. So we configure global settings in the settings area. A part of that configuration will be users. Whenever we create a new user, we assign a new user an App Engine ID. I'm using test2, which means that the user for test2 has an App Engine ID of 1002. That basically means that if I hit preview, all the information on 1001 to 1006, for example, will not be shown to me. In order for me to see any information, I need to use 1002. Cool. As you can see here, we have a special URL. If I change that to 1001, I'm going to see something completely different, just to show you. So I hit save. It's going to recompile the client. I'm going to refresh. Yeah, give it 6 seconds. Cool. All right, blank. So great. No one has actually used that in the past hour or so, so it's blank. But in order for me to see my change, I'm going to have to preview. So previewing is basically pushing all of the information of our application to the App Engine ID. I'm on 1002. There isn't a way to figure that out now, but just to show you, test2, I'm going to log out, and then we have 1002. So I'm going to log out and log in with test2, just to confirm. So we log in. All right, so we hit preview. No, we don't. We choose our application, then we hit preview. All right, so we are matching, and then what we should see is our application when we hit refresh. Okay, we don't. Now, the reason why, this is another new area, we need to actually build a application. What does that mean? We have been building an application, but we'll basically be building parts of the application, not the application itself. We need to literally visually build the application. And in order for us to do that, we do need another feature. So I'll show you something. I'm going to create a new feature called example. An application needs a start and an application needs an end. Since we only have one feature, previously called weather lookup, we do need to add another feature to assign it to the end of the application. That way, when I hit preview again, it knows when to start and it knows when to end. Bless you. So I need to add the requirements. So I need to add a new, step. I'll call it step 1. I don't really care what's going on in there, but I do need a template. And then I can literally, for example purposes, I'm going to drag the response object. We'll hit save. Cool. So now, here is where you build your application. So we have a visual tool. We can drag to connect. We can reorder our application, again showcasing the power of DXP. I'll show you how that works. When you first visit your application canvas, as your application flow, it'll be empty. So we need to edit. We can also add new channels for different purposes. So for example, if you are in a retail environment, you will add a mobile or a tablet or a in-store channel. But for now, I'm just going to use master. What we have on the right is our features. We've got weather lookup and we've got example. If we only had weather lookup, we can't literally drag to another feature. So we have to create a new one. So to do that, it's very simple. You can probably guess it. We drag the right-hand side to the left-hand side. Oops. We've got 2 errors, which is great, so we can see what's going on. So one or more application flows does not have a defined start feature. So yeah, so we need to define a starting point of our application, which makes sense. To do that, you will see the familiar 3 dots, which is here. Click on that. The only other option here is to choose a checkbox. We hit save. Green means to start, and then yeah, the rest will be orange. But anyway, no more errors, which means that we have a starting point. And then now, for example, we have a application that works. To prove that, we hit save, and then we need to hit preview so we can push our changes. Cool. So I'm going to hit refresh. No. Okay. So what is missing? Step 1 needs a create link, because if it doesn't have a create link, it can't go to it. There's no point having it. I'm going to hit save. And then now I'm going to hit preview again so we can see if it works this time. Nope. So another thing is missing. Let's check the console.
Are you using the right environment?
Maybe that actually. Let's see.
How can you check it from here?
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, maybe that. Let me.
It seems correct before. It was the 1002, right?
1002, yeah. Did I save it? Let me see.
Oh,
That's the reason why. So I'm on the wrong application. So if I switch back to 1002, should reload. There you go. So we have our first step. So we have our request, which is, but we don't have our submit button because we haven't configured it. But yeah, as you can see, the reason why we can now see it is because we are on the correct environment. And one thing I need to do, which I forgot to do, is configure our step. Shouldn't really need to do that actually. But
so submit button. Are you gonna add it into a new step of the weather lookup or inside?
so submit button will be on the first step.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, to make it easier, I'm gonna. So again, I may be jumping ahead here, but apologies if I'm jumping stuff up. You can also configure your steps as well as your application, so you can reorder your steps as well. Because we have more than one step now, I'm going to connect it so you can see the end result. Well, actually, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Then we connect it, and then we hit save. Cool. All right, so yeah, I need to configure our step. All right, just for demo purposes, I'm going to call it anything. But okay. That'll make more sense.
It's funny that all the labels are the other way around.
Yeah, I know. Cool, so we have a configured submit label. I don't know if that makes a difference, but let me hit preview. Oh, there you go. So now, yeah. So just to confirm, if you haven't configured your step properly, you may not see everything. You need to configure the button, the title and the subtitle are optional, but yeah, in order for you to move on, you do need the submit button configured. So let's move on. London, metric, next. Cool. We have our response, which is great. Yeah, very easy. If a client wants to download or package up Lumen, they will have access towards this. It's up to them to configure this however they want. A great example would be a Samsung demo. I don't know if you guys have seen that demo, but it's really good. It was just like the real site. If you ask for the Samsung demo for Lumen, then you can truly see the power of Lumen. But for now, let's continue. We hit submit. Yeah, I haven't configured the button. But I mean, you get a point. It went from weather lookup to example. Not that clear, but that's how you configure a working application. Okay, 12 minutes left. I wish I could continue more because, yeah, there's lots to continue with, but any more questions? No? Any in the chat? Is your audio on?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, no more questions. Cool. So,
one thing
yeah.
I just want to explain to them. So with the last question regards to different application, you might want to also tell them that you can't actually share services across application, but there's certain things that are restricted to same application as well.
Okay. So yeah. So as you can see, so for was it the VAR? Okay. So one can assume if you have multiple different applications under a project, you can share information between those. That isn't the case, unfortunately. They are currently working on that as an importing and exporting steps and features. So they are pretty much unique towards each application. So for example, you can't literally take or drag and drop example, as in our feature, into Weather app. You do need to create it manually and vice versa. But yeah, they are currently working on this. So yeah, you can't do that at the moment. ADM, of course, is only restricted towards the application. If you were to share information between multiple different applications, you can use something called a CDM. And then that brings me to the import button. So we have a CDM as well. So CDM is basically common data model. And to view this, you do have an option to view it in the services. We click CDM, and then as you can see here, we have different objects which have been used between the different projects in our carousel. So how do we actually use the CDM, or why would you use it? A great example will be addresses or common data, basically. So addresses is pretty popular. Name, age, all pretty popular. Rather than creating that for every single application, you can import it into your application. To show you that, I'm going to create a new property called age. And it'll be a number. And then hit save. And cool. All right. So you can probably guess it. Data editor. We're back on our application. We have a button here called import. We have a reference to the CDM. We just choose age. And then we drag and drop. Oops. Okay. Don't know where that went. Let me drag it. Cool. So yeah, once you drag it to the gray box, we hit done. And oh, okay. Let me do it again. There you go. Yeah, it was a bit temperamental, but yeah, that worked. So yeah, that's basically how you import from a global level to your application. All right. So yeah, there are other restrictions as well. Basically, you can't really move stuff around between different applications, but you can do it in your own application. The only thing you can do now that will be reflected across different applications is to use the CDM and the CRD. Cool. So I would continue here, but I'll be going into a more detailed topic. So I'm going to leave it here. Normally I do this 2 weeks. I can do this every week to carry on because, of course, we've got people that have gone through this course already. Like, yeah, and that wants to see more. So we'll carry on next week if you're available around this time. But before I leave, any questions? And this is recorded, by the way. I'll post this to YouTube. Any questions? No? All good? Any questions on the chat, on the call? No? Okay. All right. So is Duval on? No. Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah, any questions from now on, please email me. I will push this to the next session. this will be recorded. I will post this to, I will have to forward it to your emails because there's no central location apart from SharePoint, which can be a bit temperamental. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We basically covered the main areas of DXP in less than 2 hours. I mean, normally if you get used to this, it should be in 5 minutes, but we basically configured a very simple application and we connected to an API. For example, the Samsung proof of concepts took them 7 days, but they configured a whole bunch of stuff in a very short time. So it's pretty impressive, all using this platform. I do recommend to view that demo somewhere on SharePoint, or if you ask me, I can forward it to you, just to show you a bit more power of DXP. But yeah, next week will be a follow-up towards the session, and then the week after that will be for new starters. So if there are no more questions, thank you very much for joining. I know I've jumped across a bit, but sometimes I do get carried away. But yeah, this will be recorded and I'll post this out to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.